Jesus shows us the power of awareness. When we realize the truth in an experience, the truth disarms our mental and emotional weapons, stones, and frees us from false judgments. What does that mean? Once the accusers became aware that that which they wanted to stone her for, they did. It's highly likely that the man she was committing adultery with was one of the guys that was there wanting to stone her. And just because we get caught up in the morality of this story, I want to make sure you understand this is not a moral story. Jesus wasn't a moralist. Oh, did I say that out loud? Jesus wasn't a moralist. This was a property issue. Women were property in biblical days. Property issue. You read the 10 Commandments, and women or wives, women in general are considered property. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. They said his ox, his wife, his slaves, his male servants and female servants. The wife was considered part of that, of the ownership of the man. Obviously. Thank God we've evolved past that. But I want you to get the point. This wasn't about morality. It's about adultery is a moral issue for us now. Back then, there was no dating and courting and all that other stuff, but I don't want to get into that. My point of it is this. When you become aware, you disarm your need to be so judgmental with self and others. Because if you are harming yourself with your judgments and accusations, you can best believe you're doing it to others. This is why I started the seminar off with forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. Because one of the weapons we use to harm our present is our past. You know, God bless his soul. Michael Jackson could never let go of his past. And it was a weapon that harmed his life. One of the most talented individuals in human history. Could only anytime he was interviewed, it always went back to, I never had a childhood. And you all gave him a pass because of that. Because I don't care what you all say. And I'll say this on tape. I don't care. Grown men are supposed to be sleeping in bed with boys. I don't care if they're not doing anything. But we give it a pass because we have our story. You're right, Michael, and I didn't have one either. Or my mama wasn't there. Or my daddy didn't show up. Or they were too hard on me. Or they wanted me to be excellent and perfectionist about everything. And since we're walking around carrying our pain, we're okay when people carry theirs and they have their story. It's all illusions. It's all illusions. It's all illusions. But we like to give people passes because we want to pass. Let me let that go. It's like he talked about Michael Jackson. I'm going to have to edit that out. You know, I'm just joking. You don't talk about Michael. We'll be hitting up my Facebook page like, you don't talk about Michael. Jesus shows us that once we release it, it is over. God isn't holding anything against us. Most people in the world, not you all are obviously righteous and highly evolved, hold a judgmental concept about God in your consciousness. That God is always disapproving of your actions, what you're thinking and what you're doing, without realizing that in God, hear me, because I want to make sure that you get this. In God, there's never anything to forgive. In God, In God. Now, the Bible says and all that other stuff. I get it. I get that. But the Bible uses narrative to teach spiritual principles. What we do is we get caught up in the narrative and not the principle that the narrative is trying to teach us. So, in God, wholeness is. In God, perfection is. In God, everything is like God's essential character and nature, absolute good. Now, God is omnipresent, right? Omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, all the presence, all the power, all the wisdom or intelligence. But I can only express omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence to the level of my awareness of it. So, since we are judgmental, we give meaning to everything. Since we believe that people have to pay, we create a God that does the same. God, in and of itself, has no religion. God, in and of itself, has no creed. God is purity, and I like to use the term absolute reality. Therefore, God has no reason to hold anything against you, because in God, you're already whole. And what you call the spiritual leaders, healers, ministers, gurus, and whatever that you go to help you work with your stuff, their job is to only see the wholeness of God in you and agree with that. That's how you heal. That's how you transform your life, by recognizing that God as wholeness is your true nature. But if God as wholeness is your true nature, it's also the true nature of your neighbor. And it doesn't matter how much you arrest your potential, it's still there. God isn't holding anything against you. I don't care how bad you thought it was. When you release it, it's over. It only lives because you are feeding it. I remember years ago, I don't know how long ago, it was probably about 10 years ago, Dr. Johnson taught a lesson, and he talked about a man talking to his grandson. And he told him that in every person there's two wolves fighting. Remember that? And they're ferociously fighting all the time. And he says, well, Granddaddy, which one will win? I think one wolf was good and the other wolf was bad or something like that, according to the story. He said, well, Granddaddy, which one will win? And he says, whichever one you feed. Which one are you feeding? Are you giving your food is your thought. What you think into, you give life to. All right, let me move on. Jesus taught us not to go back and engage in the same type of mental and physical activity that got us in trouble in the first place. In other words, after you receive your healing, don't go back doing the same stuff you used to do, thinking the same kind of way. Here's one of I wish they'd have told me this early in class, but sometimes you have to just learn this by experience. When you rise in consciousness, let me put it this way, just by a show of hands. When you started to work with these principles, did you notice as you rose in consciousness, stuff would demonstrate quick? Okay. Now realize, as you rise in consciousness, demonstrations come quicker. Demonstrations come quicker. I didn't say good demonstrations. As you become more sensitive to spirit, and spiritual things, you can't afford to think, feel, talk, and act in certain ways because it comes back so fast. There's a responsibility to your elevated level of consciousness. You used to be able to get away with stuff, and it took a long time for it to get back. Now, as soon as this comes out your mouth, it's smacking you in the back of the head. Do you notice that? Yeah, it's a reason. That's the reason. So stop engaging in it.